Well, eNCA's reporter, that's Erin Bates, is covering the commission for us, and let's cross live to her now in Parktown at the venue of the state capture inquiry. Erin, good morning to you. So, this testimony postponed several times. Is it definite that Robert McBride will be testifying there this morning?
Certainly not, Oli. From the information that we at eNCA have received, it seems that McBride may only testify toward the end of the week. It's understood that his submissions are incredibly complex and layered, and that he implicates upward of 30 people in his evidence. And we understand that it's very probable that he may in fact not pitch up. But for more on this and what this may mean for the Commission and its scope and its muscle, really, I'm joined now by political analyst Karima Brown. Karima, are the cracks showing in the inquiry's scope and muscle in terms of dealing with witnesses and complex testimony?
I think the fact that Mr. McBride is not here has got nothing to do with his availability or lack thereof. What it points to is the fact that the Commission is administratively not jacked up, because Mr. McBride was here before, and of course everybody knew that his submissions contained what it did. The Commission had ample time to involve all its staff in getting the people, convinced that the information needs to go out. So I think it reflects on the capacity of the Commission or the lack thereof. And we mustn't forget that the secretary of the Commission, the original secretary, was disqualified from this process as a result of him being linked to corruption in Bosasa, which takes you back to the Justice Department, because it is Mr. Minister Masuta's responsibility to provide infrastructure for this Commission to do its work. And yet it is the criminal justice system that Mr. McBride is going to implicate in state capture. In fact, in a clip that we've been playing throughout, we hear Mr. McBride saying that he describes the capture of these institutions akin to a silent coup. So the stakes are very high here, and of course the very people that are actually part of making this work could very well be implicated. We, for example, see that former Commissioner of Police Khomotso Pahlani's lawyer is already here. Now we know, of course, that it is Mr. McBride that has made sure that Mr. Pahlani ends up in a court of law. Mr. Pahlani basically, rubbished his claims, said they were baseless, and of course now we have him facing corruption charges and being in the pockets of certain powerful individuals. So it's incredibly important this week what we're going to hear at the Commission, because it points to another sector of the state machinery that was in fact captured. And this is the question that most South Africans want to know. Why aren't people going to jail? When are we recouping the money? Yes. So this is the sector that Mr. McBride is going to be shedding light on. So it's a great pity that administrative weaknesses on the part of the Commission itself is the reason that Mr. McBride is likely to testify on Thursday only.
Now we know that in February, when McBride was initially set to testify, he was still the head of Ipid. There's been a dispute in the courts between the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, the Police Minister and McBride over his the end of his term and the failure to extend it. Yes. He's now going to come back as someone who's not in that position, although he has been tipped for a very important ethics position in public administration. So how does his status now as the ex-head of Ipid change his testimony whenever we hear it?
It doesn't change anything, because of course the information was collated whilst he was the head of Ipid. So that stands. And then of course there is a contestation. Mr. McBride is actually taking the Portfolio Committee to court because the challenge that Minister Cele alone can't make the decision about his appointment, and that Parliament does that, was agreed to by all the parties on condition that the Portfolio Committee doesn't rubber stamp the decision of the Police Commissioner. And Mr. McBride is contending that they are doing precisely that, because they wouldn't even allow him to give oral evidence. We also have ANC members of that committee saying that McBride is undisciplined and so on. So he is still fighting that battle on a procedural matter, although he's said he's not interested in wanting to become the head again of Ipid, but it is about the transparency of that process and the importance of the head of Ipid being someone that can hold everyone to account, because he's the watcher of the watchers. That's the position. And then, of course, we heard over the weekend that there is an ethics committee that will be located with Ayanda Dlodlo, who's the Minister of Public Administration, that is going to look at corruption in the state. Now, we know, for example, so many departments are sitting without directors general. They're on suspension with full pay pending the outcome of investigations. And this unit, depending on its terms of reference, could overhaul all of that because the person who heads up this unit will also report directly to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and it is being said that Mr. McBride is in the running for this position. In fact, the independent newspapers go as far as to say they've got reliable information that it is him. So it's important that we realize that Mr. McBride is actually not going quietly, but more importantly, he could actually end up in an even more powerful position, because this time he won't just be looking at the criminal justice system if he indeed gets this position, but the entire government and all state departments.
Yes, and it's very likely, Xoli, just on that from Karima, thank you for your time. The special tribunal announced by the President a little earlier this year, also looking into recovering state monies, could well play a significant role there too. So whether or not we hear from McBride today or later this week, it's understood that he's attached a number of court papers and disputes, including some of those mentioned by Karima, to his submissions, and it's going to be a comprehensive look into the erosion of the capacity of state law enforcement agencies to tackle corruption.
All right, Erin, just quickly before we let you go, so who's testifying there today, therefore? Who's going to replace Robert McBride?
Xoli, official word from the inquiry's officials here this morning and checking in with them last night is that McBride is still going to testify. He's not here. Several sources contacted by myself and Karima on this matter insist that it will be later in this week, and as yet we don't know if there will be a replacement witness today, and if so, who that person will be.